Hi. So we are all here to do the group discussion with regards to our module, People Management Across Culture. So the aim of our assignment is to analyze the cultural factors in MNC, theory and practice. So to start with, my name is Jayalakshmi, and then my team members, Esther, Orinaka, Juvi, and Kanchana. So now we are going to start off with the first part of our assessment, which is the power distance. When coming to power distance, Hofstede describes power distance as a social thermometer. It measures the temperature of power relationships in any given setting, like a workplace, family, or an entire country. So now coming to the theory part, we have the power distance theory by Greet Hofstede, which states that focuses on the extent to which the less powerful member of the society accept and expects the power to be distributed unequally. This helps to understand the cultural values and power dynamic influence with communication and power relationship in an organization. So I would like to know your views on this theory with regards to your country. So Kanchana, what do you think about this theory with regard to your country?
So, I'm comparing my country, India, with UK. India has high power distance compared to UK. UK has low power distance, and in India we seldom dare to challenge openly. And because we respect our elders and superiors in a way that we are not allowed in decision making either. And if you take UK, they even low hierarchy people like subordinates or managers or team members or team leaders. They are also allowed in decision making and they have the authority to make. They can question their authorities and superiors and elders. But in India, we don't do that because in India, the secondary and the lower hierarchy people they doesn't get proper feedback about their work and they are heavily criticized for each and every detail. But if you come to UK, they are very friendly, they are very supportive. They can ask you to do things in a different way. They'll even help you to do in that way. So that is the major differences I have seen in terms of our distance in India and UK. So I would like to know Joey's views about how power distance works in Bangladesh.
Yeah, as I am from Bangladesh, the power distance is very high in Bangladesh, relatively UK. In Bangladesh, the hierarchical structure is very much implied, and nobody dare to question anything to their superiors, as you said in India. The authority are fully responsible for decision making, and nobody is there to give any feedback, or the employees are not there to give any feedback to their employers in their decision making. And but in the UK we see that the hierarchical is very structure is very flatter, which is not implied, and the officers are responsible in decision making, but they also empowered their employees to give feedback, which is very much attractable to me to see in the UK's power distance. Whatever, Odi.
Okay, for the case of power distance between UK and Nigeria, Nigeria has a very high power distance. The distribution of power in Nigeria is quite unequal, and the less influential people have accepted the inequality. Your job title automatically earn you power. If you are wealthy, you automatically have power. Other people are well respected in Nigeria. Those in power see themselves or sometimes see by people, other people, to be on the higher level. Therefore, they have control over the less privileged. Power flow from the top to the bottom in Nigeria, and the level power distance is being determined by your wealth, your job title, and your age. Unlike in the UK, where power distance is low, even by equality, inclusivity, and mutual respect in organization. Supervisors and the employee are considered equal. Accountability is evenly distributed. The dramatic nature of the British come into play where the hierarchies are lower and the subordinates feel free to air their opinion in decision making. In the UK, the leadership is usually a role of facilitation rather than dictation, compared to Nigeria, where it's all about dictation. I think we would like to hear from Esther to know how it happens in China.
Well, first of all, we define culture as the collective mental programming of human mind that distinguish one group of people from another. And the power distance between UK and China is that the UK typically has a lower power distance compared to China and fairness in power distribution. But there's an expectation that people have a say in decisions that affect them, regardless of their position in society. Communism is a key concept of leadership in Chinese companies, emphasizing that no relationship is formed on equality. There is always a hierarchy with older and more senior people receiving the most respect. Management directions are given from the top and then passed down the hierarchy. Lower ranking workers are not expected to question higher ranking employees since this is considered disrespectful. The company's top leader is seen as the father figure, expecting unconditional dedication and obedience from all employees. When greeting someone, many Chinese people tend to glance towards the ground. Unlike British people, frequently address each other by their first name, regardless of their age. Most meetings begin with a handshake and some small conversation. In contrast, Asia, like a milder handshake, if any. Thank you.
So that brings to the end of the power distance part. Now let's talk about the next part, communication. As economic globalization and organizational complexity grow, uh, workplace communication becomes more and more important. And cultural considerations have a significant impact in workplace communications, as cited by Hofstede. So let's take the theory part with communication, which is the cultural dimension theory developed by Greet Hofstede, which suggests that how cultures can be evaluated and analyzed based on several other dimensions like communication style. This theory explains how cultural values and norm shapes communication style in different countries. So, Jui, what is your take on this theory with regards to your country?
Yeah, in my country, there is difference between my culture and the UK, my Bangladesh culture, working culture. So in Bangladesh, in the organizations, the employees and the employers are called by their first names and also use Apa, Saheb, and Bhai with the names. But in the UK, it's different. They are called by their last name. And we usually see in the UK working culture that the male or female co-workers shake their hands, pat on their arms. It's very normal in the UK culture. But in Bangladesh, it's not quite normal. You cannot tap or pat on your female co-worker. The male co-worker can shake their hands, but it is very ill behavior to shake with your female co-worker or pat on their arms or shoulder. So it is quite a big difference between the UK and Bangladesh communication culture. And again, if we see that in Bangladesh, we start any meeting or any conversation by using the word salam, but in the UK, they use good evening, good afternoon, or good morning to use any conversation. Again, we see that there is the helpful behavior of the British employer also is very prominent in the British working culture. But the in Bangladesh, the managers or the employers are not that type of. They are like a moody culture. So, and they also express their words indirectly, which is not prominent in British working culture. The British also the Britishers like to express their words without any ambiguity or without any indirectness. So yeah, that's the communication distance between UK and Bangladesh. And what about Kanchana in the India?
So in India, I have to agree with you in the first point, that is high context culture. So India also represents high context culture when compared to UK. It has very low context culture. So in India, we have indirect means of communication, indirect way of exchanging information. And when we compare India with UK, they have very direct way of communication, and they highlights the importance of politeness in interpersonal communications. And in India, there is this thing where we have to respect our elders and superiors, because words are not important. Context and relationships matters more in India, and harmony is very important in India. But if you compare it with UK has very non-verbal signifiers, such as they have clear and explicit verbal expression. So non-verbal signifiers, they actually abolish the misinterpretation in the communication, and also helps in cultural enhancement. But in India, it is if I have to oppose with you in any context, it can be considered as rude, not as a suggestion or advice. So I think this is the major differences between UK and India in terms of communication. So Odi, what do you think about it? What
Mm,
is the issue in Nigeria?
okay, the approach of communication between Nigeria and UK is quite different. Nigeria practices indirect style of communication, whereas the UK practice direct style of communication. In Nigeria, communication is both verbal and non-verbal, focusing on tone and body language. Eye contact is often seen as a sign of disrespect, especially between a young person and an elderly person in Nigeria. Nigeria talk more with body language, sign language, and they can even use anything to communicate with you. But whereas in UK, the British are precise and concise in their own style of communication, and they are devoid in their emotions. They are always straightforward without mincing words. British are always precise to avoid misinterpretation in whatever you are dealing with them. Their communication is always clear and effective, which is a very different way of communication when you compare to Nigeria. You will need to use your head to decode whatever the person is telling you or talking to you about. Thank you.
So
Esther?
the communication part, individualism, collectivism has both direct and indirect effects on communication styles mediated by self-construct and ideals. And the communication style between UK and China is that they're non-verbal, and in Chinese is very effective. Chinese culture values harmony and relies on facial expression, tone of voice, posture, or communicates message. Frowning when someone speaks is considered a sign of dissatisfaction, and the Chinese have a cultural reluctance to saying no, while the British may be direct and subtle, depending on the circumstances, which can be confusing for many outsiders, which means they can be reserved when presenting feedbacks and thoughts. And the communication style is official, straightforward, while retaining a degree of professionalism and avoiding conflict. So if you have anything to say, you can send via email, which values courtesy in communication and making requests. And Hofstede's comparing to puts UK on 35%, a society that feels that disparities between individuals should be reduced, while China places China on 80%. It's a society that accepts inequalities amongst individuals, and this plays out in several roles. For example, time in Chinese culture is approached with a lot more fluidity than in, say, America or Europe culture. Time in the culture is not money as it is in the US. And this fits into many differences around business practices, including meetings, decision making, management, communication, negotiations, and much more. Thank you.
Okay, so now that we have discussed, we have compared our own respective countries with UK. Now let's compare with UK and China. So, Kanchana, what is your take on this?
Yeah, like compared to China and UK, they like first names are okay unless you are addressing the title person. In which case, for safety, we use Sir Peter,
Mhm.
or Dame Jane. And if they care about the title, they'll smile. Otherwise, they'll have this smug look on their face, and they will be like, Peter will do good. It will be good. So it that way it works in UK if we compare it with China. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, as my view, the Chinese corporate culture is totally based on harmony, politeness, and calmness, which the employer, through which the employer handles their employees calmly. But I think the Northern American or the Northern European corporate style is based on individualism, and I think centralized. Their culture is very much centralized. So I think that's the main difference between the UK's culture and the Chinese culture. I think so. What about Esther? What are you thinking?
Like I said earlier, the Chinese are not so direct, while the British, they're direct while keeping it professional. So I agree with all your points, and which I've pointed out that places China on a high power distance in the using Hofstede's comparison tool compared to the UK.
Yeah. But in the UK, in fact, British utilizes humor and understatements to avoid seeming to be arrogant or unpleasant, which may actually makes the coworker like comfortable to calmly work with, so that to avoid like conflicts and all that. Odi, what do you think?
Think most Chinese people talk with an emotionless look and avoid staring into others' eyes. To protect their privacy in crowded environment, the Chinese avoid making eye contacts with people around them. That's the way I see it.
Okay. So now that we have discussed the importance of cultural theories in understanding communication preference and power distance, particularly in context with UK and China, we have emphasized the challenges of navigating hierarchical structure and such as the need for research on theory development in the digital age. We have actually proposed creating training programs to enhance cultural competence among multinational corporation employees, ultimately aiming to improve international collaboration. Meanwhile, integrating theoretical knowledge with practical skills is essential for success in the global business setting. I think that brings the end of our discussion. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.